Okay, it's 5:46, so that means it's time for Paint Zoom. Anyway, we're supposed to be painting and stuff.
Yes.
Um, we're gonna do, this is what I did over the weekend. This is your homework.
Ooh, good homework.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it this big. But I thought that we might have new people. So I didn't want to teach something this complex and scary. Yeah, which it really wasn't that bad. It's just that it takes a lot of drying.
Yeah.
Because I did this, I did all this blue, the two different blues, the dark blue and the cerulean blue. And then this is ammonia to pick out the clouds and the stars.
Oh,
and then just right across here, I put the plastic wrap.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. Cool.
And then the next day, then I did this whole color spectrum with lemon yellow fade grading to red, and burnt sienna and gamboge in the middle. My favorite color. And I did that, and then I did these this morning. And so it took me 3 days, but the painting was, it's only 20 minutes.
So what are you going to put down at the bottom?
I think I'm going to put, because I think I'm trying to do the whole year. And so I think I'm going to put pink for cherry blossoms here and white for snow here.
Oh, okay.
Very clever. Very clever.
Very clever.
And then I'll have a moon and then a sun. So this will be the plain white pearlized, and this will be gold. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, you can put anything in the front. It doesn't matter what, in other words, the work is the background. And that's why I said I did this other thing and I can't find it. So I'm going to share my screen. Can I share screen? Have you set me up so I can share screen? Yeah.
Just in the middle.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so I see, it's only this big.
Wow.
Wow.
I scanned it. And then I had downloaded the silhouettes. And then I wrote it into Photoshop, but this would work in PaintNet, which is free. You can download PaintNet, and it does layers. And you do a layer of the silhouette, and then you print it out as is. And you get the silhouette. And this, I think that anybody could basically do, because it only takes 3 dryings, but it does take 3 dryings. And here's the same kind of thing as before. This is not an even thing. If I'd had the sense to make an even thing first, it would have been better. But it's the same idea. And of course, I can print these things out to be any size I want.
Right.
For cards. And if you're going to do something fairly complex, bigger is easier. But if you want to do something, quick and dirty, you can do it small, and then it stays wet longer. This you have to be sure it stays wet enough to take the plastic wrap.
Sure.
But I also discovered if you goof up, you can correct it.
Ooh.
Especially where you have not the same color, So down here, this green bled up into here, and I pulled it out, and then it was white, and so then I had a big white spot. So then I added some red, and I put some plastic wrap on it and let it sit again. Of course, that means more drying, which is the big deal with this whole technique. But so that's my quick and dirty Christmas thing. And I'm going to do a Kwanzaa one, but I want to use the Kwanzaa colors for the window.
Those are what? Orange and black and...
Well, they say red and green and black.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But it looks pretty orange to me. It's this kind of red. It's not.
Yes.
It's not really orangey. It's
not Christmas red.
Yeah, it's not crimson. It's sort of an orangey. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll do a small one because this is taking too long. But this will have the lines, which of course you can still do. And I think that I'm going to do those with marker
Mhm.
That's an
and a
idea.
ruler. You know,
Sounds- Yeah. Sounds
because
good
if
to
you're
me.
printing these things out as cards, nobody knows what you've done them with.
Right.
So that's what I did over the week. And here's an exam. What's the matter with this
Bingo.
flamingo?
Flamingo. It's pooping.
No, that's its tail.
Oh,
He has a reflection.
Right. And actually he does, but the reflection is starting under his foot,
oh,
which if he's standing in the water, it should start somewhere like here. If he's, like halfway in the water, then the reflection should be from here down. And there might be a little tinge of the red that you see through the water, but the reflection is going to be of his shin or whatever part of the flamingo it is. I think it's actually the wrist,
yeah.
because this bends the wrong way for it to be a knee. I think that it's this, and then the feet are just this. The feet are just fingers. But it's the back end, so. Because they have little teeny tiny shin bones and big femurs.
The leg bone's connected to the thigh bone.
And I realized what was wrong with it. It made it look like he's standing on ice.
Yeah. Ice skating flamingo.
Yeah, I could put little ice skates.
That would be Rumsey Pool.
Rumsey Pool. So I designed that as a little exam for those of you who have done reflections. Okay.
So is that
So-
a saran wrap too?
Yes, this is almost all saran wrap. The water is saran wrap and the leaves are saran wrap. And I made sort of little pleats in the saran wrap this way for here and this way for the green. This was gooped around here, but I just avoided it. I didn't goop the whole thing, just here. And then this was a wad of saran wrap that I put in, and then I took the goop off and painted the rest.
Okay.
So it's a very heavily saran wrapped thing. And it wasn't until afterwards I realized he's standing on ice. And I don't know that I can fix it. Because red and blue, it's the saran wrap. I mean, it's a lot of variables that I can get wrong.
I think putting a little ice skate would be just fine.
Yeah, like hand sprinkler. I can make them silver.
Put a little
Yes,
snow,
silver skates.
put some snow on the edge and that'll make it real.
Yeah. Flamingos always are around where there's ice.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Oh, yes.
So that's my story. Oh, and I did something with that background that I didn't know what I was going to do with, and I don't like it. But here it
That's
is.
it.
After my husband died, I was very enamored of Dylan Thomas's poem Fern Hill. And there's a line where he says, "I was king of the apple towns, and the leaves they ran with barley and daisies." And so that's what this scene is. And it's okay if you've got this much light, but if you put it anywhere where there's not this much light, the apple looks brown. The barley totally disappears. And the daisies just look like smudges. So I don't think it's a very successful painting, but it was something to try. Maybe what I should have done was contact paper for the apple.
Could be.
I don't know. Anyway, that's where that is.
Interesting.
So that's what I did. And this is your homework.
Okay.
You can do either one, and you can do any kind of silhouette you want. John, were you here for the seeing with the silhouettes? Who else is here?
No.
No, anything. And then I realized also that I made the bookmarks out of the stuff I did last week. That if you did this, then you would have candles. You could even make them thinner. And you could put them out on a piece of paper, and you could paint the flames and the wicks, and you could take the pictures, you could tape them or paste them, and then you could paint a candelabra and you would have a very nice card. So
Indeed.
those are my ideas for cards and the stuff you saw last week. I guess I have to paint.
That would be good.
Okay.
You can tell us a story.
I can tell you a story. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago. So this is a book cover I did from my friend Joyce, who some of you may remember. She was with us for a short time as a painter. But she's written a trilogy, 3 books. She has published 2 of them. I have done the covers on all of them. She has not published this one, although she completed it like 3 years ago. And this is the cover for it. And it's a very good winter scene. And this is what she was a suburban gal from Maine. And she got out of college and couldn't find a job and, was clerking in some store. And an old boyfriend calls up and says, "You want to go to Maine? We're going to hitchhike out. I've got some land out there and we're going to be back to the Landers," and so forth. She said, "Sure." And they hitchhiked out and they arrived in March, which of course from a California perspective is way into the spring. And from a Maine perspective is still pretty much the dead of winter. And this is the cabin that they came to. And this is what it sort of looked like. So this is the cover of the last book. The hardest part of this for me was getting the darn roof line straight. So I have done a teeny tiny sketch. I've just done, in fact, Virginia was here when I did the sketch. I did the roof line because it kept on getting unstraight again. And then the rest you just do a little bit of color so that it looks not like white, but it's all snow. But you want to get some contour. And then this is this white pearlized stuff to give a little shine to it on the roof. That's it. And I was hoping that maybe we would have some new people. So I wanted to do something that was pretty easy. And I think that this probably qualifies. So those of you who are painting along, please do. Those of you who are doing something else, please do. And then we will share at the end. So since I've worried most about the roof line, I guess I'll start with that. No, I don't think I will. I will do the regular thing of background and lights to darks, because my sketch is pretty good. I think my sketch will work. And I'm going to do a little bit of blue, more water. And because it is winter in Maine, it can't be too blue. Although right after a snowstorm in Maine, it is always incredibly clear, incredibly sunny. Like nature is saying, "I'm sorry, I just couldn't help myself. I just had to do that. And now it's over. So come out and play in snow." So I need a bigger brush when I do a sky. So I'm coming across here. I think I'm going to make this be a little brighter day than it was in this. And let's have a little bit of a cloud here and there. And the other thing, of course, we want in the sky is this smoke trail. And I did a previous version of this one. And I realized that the prevailing winds from the point of view of these trees, the prevailing winds go that way. And in that one, I had the smoke going the other way. Which of course happens, but it shouldn't, try and be a little bit accurate. So let's make this a little grayer. Add a little bit of burnt sienna to make it grayer. That's maybe too much. And then pretty soon she had 8 cups. So my chimney is about here. And of course it diffuses. There we go. So now we've got a sky. Now the big thing about painting snow is not to make your shadows gray, because then it just looks dirty. I tend toward purple shadows on snow because I think that looks nice. Otherwise you want blue. You don't, like I said, you don't want a gray. You don't want a gray. You don't even want a blue gray, a burnt sienna and blue gray. So I'm going to make a little bit of purple. Add some more water and add some red. And this is a crimson. This is not cadmium. You could add cadmium. So now it's both. There's not enough of it. So here's my hill over here. And my other hill. And now because this is very dark, They apparently had to hike in half a mile to get to this place from the road. And of course, in the summer, you could drive in.
Sure.
And the people, more crazy California kids, they said, "Oh, this is such a nice romantic little glen, and it's away from the road," never thinking that they were going to have to hike in the winter. It's still a little thick. This sort of reminds me of some of the stuff we did with the mountains with an Asian aesthetic.
Right.
It's the same kind of feel of, you mess with it. You mess with it and it's supposed to look spontaneous, but you really do a lot of messing with it.
Right.
A lot more messing than you thought. And a lot of just water. I'm pulling off. Trying to get a little more subtlety. Subtlety is not my strong suit,
Part of your charm.
especially when I spent the week doing these very sort of primary colory things
Uh-huh.
for stained glass windows. And before that, we did high contrast with the fruits, fall fruits. The thing that makes me think of the Asian aesthetic is that this use of one large brush. That's not too bad. When I was first working on this composition, of course, I had a wood pile and windows and blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, that's way too much. So now let's try our house. This is sort of a beigey house. It was actually a log cabin, but I don't know. So I'm using burnt sienna, and what was in here was sort of a mix of burnt sienna and cadmium red. And so I'm adding to that. And then I will.
How old was the cabin? When was it built?
They built it. I mean, the people who lived in it built it. So it was like 6 months old or maybe a year old, maybe 2.
Mm.
These were actually Rick, the fella involved, had traded land that he had bought in Alaska. He was going to do back to the land in Alaska, and he went up to Alaska and he decided he didn't think he was going to do it. And there was a woman that he met on the road. I mean, he hitchhiked everywhere he went. And he met her, and she had this land in Maine, and she wanted to go to Alaska. And so they continued on to Alaska. And then he swapped the land that he had bought sight unseen in Alaska for this land sight unseen in
Wow.
Maine.
How neat.
Yeah. Rick was like that. He did a lot of stuff like that. And then he calls up Joyce, and he's coming down from Alaska. He still has not been to see this land. He's coming down from Alaska. And he's calling her up, and she's clerking in a flower shop because she doesn't want to live at home. And she's got 2 roommates, in a teeny tiny apartment in San Francisco. And he says, "You want to go to Maine with me?" Now, they had been together and broken up and so on and so forth. But she still carried a torch. And so she says, "Can I think about it?" He says, "No, you have to answer me." And then she says, "You got to give me a little time." So he gives her 24 hours to decide if she's going to go cross country with this guy who's already been somewhat disappointing as a boyfriend. And she, of course, decides to do it because it's an adventure, and she's a kid. And so they do it. And of course, and her father is perfectly willing for her to drive a car out, take the car. And then he's perfectly willing to give her a bus ticket. No, this is the great adventure. They're gonna hitchhike.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And of course they run out of money, and no, Rick says, no, don't call your father. We're going to be okay. And she becomes a casual worker. They do casual labor, and he knows people everywhere. He's one of these, bums kind of guys. And so he knows people everywhere, and they stop and they stay with them. At one point they stop, and the gal that owns the place where they're staying has an old style Wringer washing machine.
Ah, yes.
But it's fancy. It's not a hand wringer. It's an electric wringer. And Rick has a long ponytail all the way down his back. And
Okay.
the woman, whose name I have forgotten, and Joyce are up in the upstairs, and the washer's in the basement. And all of a sudden they hear thump, 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 and they hear what they think is Rick screaming. His ponytail had gotten into the wringer.
Oh, that hurts. Oh, just thinking about it.
And he was he was humping the washing machine over toward the plug so that he could pull out the plug. I mean, crazy adventures. I think I'm going to give it a green roof. So that's and the book one is just making it across the country and getting to this cabin in March. And for a while they stayed with the couple and their two kids in this cabin. It's like 1.5 rooms or something like that. They've got a loft. And the kids are little. They're, like 5 and 4 or 3, they're fine. But of course, the woman and the man don't have any privacy with Joyce and Rick around.
No.
So there's a bread van on the property.
Uh-huh.
And so they get to live in this bread van in the winter in Maine. Oh, I remember why that happened. It's because that Joyce's sister decides she's going to join Joyce. And of course, this couple, they're bad enough off having Rick and Joyce there in the middle of their life. And now here's another one. And a friend of Rick's shows up, and he's from around here. He's from McLean. And he's been to school at VMI. I mean, and he's a typical VMI guy. But somehow he gets the romantic bug of this cabin in Maine. And so he comes up. So there they are, the 4 of them. And these other 2 people, and the cabin is obviously way too small. So they end up living in a bread van. And then as soon as spring comes, they begin to get crops in the ground. And they have adventures getting a horse. The horse knows how to work the woods. They're going to log. They're going to cut their own logs, the logs growing on the property, and build their cabin on what's basically the neighboring plot to this one. The horse, they buy this horse from a bunch of gypsies. And the Maynards all say, you're nuts. You're just going to get garbage. They're not going to, the horse is not going to be right. You got a problem. This horse is going to be a problem. Oh, no. She'll be fine. But she's extremely skinny. And so they feed her up because they're good California kids who don't want to be nasty to animals. Well, once the horse gets fed up, it gets feisty. The only way you can get this horse to work effectively is to keep it starving, which they're not inclined to do. And Joyce ends up being the one that has to take care of the horse. It's not a bad cover. It's pretty good. There's enough up here. This is where the title is, and this is where our names are. That kind of thing. Actually, this is vertically, isn't it? Vertical, and this is not. Okay, trees. Okay, they're a little scary. I think I wiped out the trees a lot when I did it. And I want them to be straight. I think that was the problem, that they kept on leaning one way or t'other. So let's maybe take a pencil, maybe take a pencil, maybe take a straight edge. Great things. There's a gal that gets on one of our regular Zooms, and for some reason, there's an echo. And not when she talks, but when other people talk, it echoes. I've got a smush there. I'm gonna have to do something about that smush. And it's just on the wrong side of the tree. Okay. This tree is gonna have to be bigger than it was, because I've got to get rid of that smudge. I don't like them to be this symmetrical. Is Marilyn on? No. I'm using hookers green and black. Add some more trees, so the smudge is not so obvious. I can only go taller. I can't make it shorter. This is going to be right off the paper. Put some little ones down here. It's not so obvious that I screwed up. I think that's one of the important things to learn about painting, is that you're going to screw up. And so you might as well learn how to deal with it and accept that. And anybody who takes class with me knows that, because I screw up all the time. There.
What's the
That's
name
not
of the
bad.
painting?
Pardon? Pardon? Somebody spoke.
Oh, I did. I just wanted to know, since you were talking about screw up, what the name of the painting is.
What this painting is?
Joking. It looks good.
This painting is yet another take of We Did It in Maine. I imagine if you'd hiked a mile in from the road in something which is obviously a wind. The sight of that smoke coming out of that chimney was a great thing. In the first book, Joyce talks about how wonderful wood heat is, because it's radiant heat. Where is our light coming from? I've got the lightest idea. And this should really be stone, not wood. You know, a wood chimney. It's silly. Okay, so that's sort of brown. What do I want to add? I want to add blue, make it more gray. I could add some of my purple. It's supposed to look like fieldstone. Let's see what that looks like as it dries. And let's add some darks. Maybe some more shadow under here. Okay. All right. So now our footsteps in the snow. some more of our purple with maybe a little bit of black in it to darken it up some. There we go. Okay, I think I'm calling it a wrap. Maybe a little bit of pulling off with clean water. Luckily, I have 2 jars. Those shouldn't be that dark. Okay. So,
Very nice.
Mm. So
we
I'm
did it
seeing-
in Maine.
I'm seeing snow in the chinks there between the logs. Is that what you?
Yeah. And I didn't do that on the original one. That it came because I was thinking about the logs. On the original one, I wasn't so much thinking about the logs. And here I was thinking about the logs, and so I drew straight lines, and then I said, "Oh, that looks like snow in the chinks."
Been wonderfully soothing watching you paint this evening.
It's actually soothing to paint, I think. I remember actually being at Joyce's, and we had been working. I don't know what we were doing, clearing brush or some sort of thing. And afterwards, I was ready for a nap. And then I said, let's paint. And so we did some painting, and then we were both refreshed. We didn't go back out. We had a glass of wine. Speaking of which.
Sounds good.
So that would do a Christmas card. And you could Photoshop it. I think I probably will do a little more messing about with this because I like the different colors of green in these. I don't know how much of that you see.
It's very Winnie the Pooh.
Yes. Following the footsteps, except they don't go around in a circle.
It's lovely.
It is.
And so I'll probably add some other greens and maybe some black, to make a little color differentiation, but I want to wait for it to dry. But I think the snow is done. I think the cabin is done. I think the sky is done. I might mess with the smoke some. Okay.
Brilliant.
Lovely.
Okay. Take care.
You
Have a
too.
happy
as well.
Thanksgiving.
Thank
happy
you. The
and
very
blessed
same to
Thanksgiving.
you and the safe one.
Very same.
Yes.
Stay safe, everyone.
Take
Thank you.
care. Bye.
Absolutely.